Catherine Reynolds woke to the hum of engines and the warmth of a stranger's shoulder beneath her cheek. The CEO of a private aviation company, a woman who built empires at 30,000 feet, had fallen asleep on a man wearing a faded jacket with grease stains on the cuffs. His calloused hands rested gently on a sleeping child's back. She pulled away, embarrassed, ready to apologize. But something in his eyes stopped her. A depth that didn't match the worn clothes. A steadiness that seemed carved from years of carrying weight no one else could see. The boy stirred, tugging his father's sleeve. "Daddy, when will we?" Then the plane shook. Hard. Wrong. Catherine saw the man's hand grip the armrest, not in fear, but as if counting rhythm, calculating. An announcement asked passengers to remain calm, but his eyes weren't calm at all. They were the eyes of someone seeing what others hadn't noticed yet. 30 minutes later, Catherine would understand why her company's hiring system, the system she'd been so proud of building, might be the deadliest mistake of her career. Catherine straightened, mortified. 3 days of negotiations, flying coach to study the competition. Exhaustion had made her drool on a stranger's shoulder. The man shifted carefully, protecting the boy against his side. Worn jacket, grease under fingernails. Yet when their eyes met, Catherine felt evaluated rather than evaluating. "I'm so sorry," she managed. "It's all right. You looked like you needed it." His voice carried gentleness despite calloused hands. "I know that kind of tired." The boy stirred, 6 years old with gap-toothed smile. "Are we almost there, Daddy?" "Another hour." "Buddy." The tenderness in his voice made Catherine's chest tighten. "Hi, I'm Leo, and this is my daddy, Ray." Ray nodded. Catherine noticed everything. Eyes tracking flight attendants, fingers tapping steady rhythm. Something calculated, professional. "We're going to see Grandma and Grandpa," Leo announced. "Daddy saved up 2 whole years so we could fly. My daddy fixes airplanes. He knows everything about them." "You're an aircraft mechanic?" Catherine asked. "Something like that. I work maintenance at a small regional airport." But the way his eyes flickered to emergency exits said otherwise. Catherine had built Skybridge Aviation on reading people. Ray Mitchell, she glimpsed his luggage tag, carried more than worn backpacks. The plane hit turbulence. Catherine barely noticed, but Ray went rigid, hand shooting to steady Leo. His eyes swept the cabin with assessment beyond mechanic's instinct. "Daddy, what's wrong?" "Just a bump, buddy. The air is like an ocean with waves, remember?" Catherine watched, fascinated. Ray spoke of aircraft with intimate knowledge that went beyond maintenance work. "How long have you been in aviation?" she asked. Ray hesitated. "A while. Different lifetime." The phrase hung heavy. Before Catherine could press, Leo asked with childhood bluntness, "Do you have kids?" "No, I don't." "What kind of work do you do?" Catherine paused. She didn't want to reveal she owned an aviation company. "I work in aviation too, on the business side." "Cool. So you're airplane partners." Leo beamed. The plane shuddered again, more pronounced. The seatbelt sign dinged on. Catherine clicked hers automatically. But Ray's knuckles went white on the armrest. His eyes had changed. Sharp, focused, trained. The turbulence worsened. Oxygen masks dropped with gasps from passengers. Leo grabbed his father, frightened. "Masks on!" Ray commanded, his voice transformed. Authority earned through something beyond job titles. He fitted Leo's mask with practiced efficiency. "Breathe normally, buddy, just like we practiced." Practiced? Catherine's mind reeled. When did fathers practice emergency procedures? The intercom crackled. A young voice tight with panic. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is First Officer Harding. Captain Morrison is incapacitated. If there is anyone with flight experience, please make yourself known immediately." The cabin erupted. Voices rose. Someone screamed, and Ray closed his eyes, hands beginning to shake. Catherine watched war play across his face. His breathing went shallow. This wasn't just fear. This was trauma. "I can't," Ray whispered. "I can't do it again." "Can't do what?" Catherine asked, though understanding was dawning. The plane lurched harder. A flight attendant returned, desperate. "Please, is there anyone who can help?" Catherine saw Ray's hand hover near the call button, trembling, then pull back. "You can fly," she said. Not a question. Ray's laugh was bitter. "I used to. 4 years ago. And I swore I'd never." He cut off, jaw working. "There's too much." "Then help me understand. Because that first officer sounds terrified, and this plane is full of people who want to go home." "You think I don't know that?" Ray snapped. He looked at Leo, expression crumbling. "What if I fail?" "Daddy," Leo said, voice steady despite the mask. "You're the bravest person I know." "No, buddy, I'm not." "Yes, you are. You go to work every day even though you're tired. You're brave all the time. This is just one more time." Ray's face transformed. Fear didn't disappear. It sharpened. But something else appeared. Determination. Love strong enough to overpower instinct. "Okay," Ray whispered, then louder. "Okay." He stood, legs unsteady. The flight attendant saw him immediately. "You have flight experience?" "Captain Ray Mitchell, United States Air Force, retired." He pulled out military ID with shaking hands. 4 years since I've flown. But I can try." The attendant grabbed his ID, nodding frantically. "This way. Quickly." Ray turned to Catherine. "Watch him. Please." "I will." Ray knelt, gripping Leo's shoulders. "I need you to stay with Catherine." "Okay." "Are you going to fly the plane, Daddy?" "I'm going to try, buddy. My very best." "Like the stories? About when you were a pilot?" Ray's smile was sad and beautiful, just like that, but scarier. He pulled Leo into fierce embrace. "I love you so much." "I love you too, Daddy. You can do it." Ray stood, turned toward the cockpit without looking back, as if one glance would shatter his resolve. Catherine saw his hands still shaking, saw him pause once, body tensing. But he kept walking, kept choosing courage over terror. "Miss Catherine," Leo pressed against her. "Is my daddy going to be okay?" Catherine wrapped her arm around him. "Your daddy is one of the bravest people I've ever met." "He doesn't think so. He has bad dreams about his friend who didn't come home from the sky." "That's why Daddy doesn't fly anymore." The pieces clicked together. Military pilot. Trauma. Loss so profound, it drove him from the sky. And now, he was walking back into it. For his son. For strangers. The speakers crackled. Ray's voice, rough but carrying authority. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Mitchell. I'm assisting with the flight. We're experiencing control issues, but we're working through them. Stay seated and remain calm. We're going to get through this." Catherine's throat tightened. She could hear fear underneath, but his voice held steady. The plane banked sharply left, but it felt different now. Controlled. Someone who knew what they were doing was fighting. "That's my daddy," Leo whispered, pride and fear mixing. "That's my daddy flying." Minutes crawled like hours. Turbulence continued, but there was steadiness now. Someone winning the fight for control. A flight attendant appeared. "We're preparing for emergency landing in Kansas City. Captain Mitchell said to tell his son he's got this." "Did you hear?" Catherine asked Leo. "Your dad's got this." Leo nodded against her. "He always does, even when he's scared." The plane descended. Catherine's ears popped. Clouds thickened outside, earth rising to meet them. Ray was up there, fighting demons and gravity, carrying everyone's future on shoulders that had been running from this moment for 4 years. "Final approach," Ray's voice came through, steadier now. Cabin crew, prepare for landing. It's going to be rough, but we're going to make it. I promise." The wheels touched down, hard, too hard. The plane bounced, rubber screaming. Catherine's teeth rattled. Leo buried his face against her. The plane shuddered, shook, and finally began to slow. Engines roared in reverse. Emergency vehicles raced alongside. Slower, slower. And finally, mercifully, they stopped. Silence. Then the cabin erupted. Sobbing, laughing, praying. Catherine sat frozen. Leo pressed against her, both breathing hard. They were down. Safe. Alive. "My daddy did it," Leo said. "He really did it." "He really did," Catherine echoed, cheeks wet. The cockpit door opened. Ray emerged looking 20 years older, face ashen, shirt soaked, hands trembling so badly he gripped seatbacks, walking. But he was alive. Leo broke free, racing down the aisle. "Daddy! Daddy!" Ray dropped to his knees, catching his son's launch, holding on like Leo was the only solid thing left. His shoulders shook with sobs he'd been holding back. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You saved us, Daddy. You're a hero." "I'm not." Ray's voice broke. "You are," Catherine said, kneeling beside them. "You are." Ray looked at her, eyes raw. "I thought I was going to kill everyone. I thought my hands would freeze, that I'd forget. But you didn't. You remembered. You fought. You brought us home. I couldn't have lived with it if I'd failed. But nothing happened. You were more than good enough." Catherine took his trembling hand. "Thank you, Ray. Thank you for being brave when every instinct told you to run." Ray looked at their joined hands, at Leo's face. "It was the hardest thing I've ever done." Emergency personnel flooded the plane. Someone tried to pull Ray away for evaluation, but he wouldn't let go of Leo. Catherine stood back, giving them space, but Ray's eyes found hers. "Don't go." "Please." So Catherine stayed. Through medical checks and statements and debriefing. She stayed as Ray admitted he hadn't flown in 4 years, explained the training accident that killed his wingman, confessed to PTSD. She stayed as officials praised him and promised investigations. And she listened as a safety inspector mentioned casually that Ray had applied to several airlines over 2 years. Always rejected in initial screening. The system flags the gap and medical history. Never makes it to human review. Damn shame. After what you pulled off today. He shook his head, then checked his tablet. United, Delta, and Skybridge Aviation. That won 3 times in 18 months. Catherine's stomach dropped. You applied to my company. Ray wasn't looking at her, focused on sleeping Leo. I didn't know you owned it. You said you worked in aviation. I'm the CEO. Yeah, I gathered. His voice was flat. Guess that makes this awkward. Ray, it's fine, I understand. My resume looks like Swiss cheese. Your system did what it was designed to do, filter out unreliable candidates. I need your contact information, Catherine said, gripping his arm. Ray's smile was bitter. For what? For a job interview. His expression flickered. Surprise, hope, suspicion. You don't have to. I know you didn't do this for that, Catherine interrupted. That's why I'm offering. My company needs people who perform under pressure. People who understand courage isn't absence of fear. Your system will just reject me again. Then I'll override the system. Catherine pulled out her phone. No algorithm, no automated screening. A real conversation about what you can do. Ray stared at her. Why? Because 30 minutes ago, you taught me that the most important things can't be measured by algorithms. And because a 6-year-old boy told me his father was brave and he was right. Ray's smile reached his eyes for the first time. He's pretty smart. He is. And he deserves a father who gets to do what he was born to do. Catherine held out her phone. Please. Ray shifted Leo and typed his number. When he handed it back, she saw he'd entered email, too. I need to go. But Catherine, thank you for seeing me, for seeing him. Thank you for being someone worth seeing. She watched him carry Leo down the aisle, past grateful passengers reaching to touch his arm, past officials wanting to call him hero. At the door, he paused and looked back. Their eyes met across the cabin, and Catherine felt something shift inside her. Then Ray was gone, disappearing into the terminal with his sleeping son and 4 years of exile potentially ending. Catherine sat back down, suddenly shaking. Around her, passengers gathered belongings, processed survival. But Catherine sat still, Ray Mitchell's contact information glowing on her screen. She had built her company on efficiency, on systems eliminating human error. One of those systems had rejected Ray Mitchell 3 times, had looked at his broken resume and seen only risk. The algorithm had been wrong. Catherine pulled up email, fingers flying. Subject line: System review required. Content outlined the day's events and asked a question she should have asked years ago. How many qualified candidates are we losing because we've let machines make human decisions? Responses came before she'd left the plane. Questions, concerns, pushback. Catherine answered with clarity she rarely felt, explaining that efficiency meant nothing if it filtered out excellence, that risk management couldn't account for courage. By the time she reached the terminal, she had started a revolution in her own company. Small, messy, but necessary. Long overdue. She sent one more email to Ray. Your interview is scheduled for 2 weeks from today. Not because of what happened on that plane, but because I need to know why someone with your qualifications was rejected 3 times. I want to learn from that failure. Come ready to talk about your experience and what you want your next chapter to look like. Bring Leo if you need to. We have good daycare on site. Catherine. She hit send before second-guessing. 2 weeks later, Catherine sat in her office overlooking the runway where her planes taxied and took off. She'd spent the intervening days examining hiring practices, training protocols, promotion pipelines. She'd found gaps everywhere. Her assistant buzzed at 3. Ms. Reynolds, Mr. Mitchell is here. Catherine's heart rate spiked. Send him in. Ray walked through, wearing a suit that had seen better days, but was pressed perfectly. His eyes were nervous but clear, steady, present. Thank you for coming, Catherine said, shaking his hand. How's Leo? He's good. With my parents. He wanted me to tell you hi. And that he's been drawing airplanes non-stop. Future pilot? I hope so, if he wants to be. Ray sat, taking in the office. This is impressive. Thank you. Though I'm realizing there are cracks in the foundation. Catherine sat across from him, coffee table between them. Ray, this isn't a normal interview. I brought you here because I need to understand something. What's that? Why you kept applying. 3 rejections over 18 months. Why? Ray was quiet, gaze dropping to his hands. Because I loved flying. Before the accident, flying was the thing that made sense. When I lost it, I lost part of myself. But you were scared to go back. Terrified. Every time I thought about cockpits, I'd see him. My wingman, Chris. His face when he realized we were going down. So I found work near planes without flying them. Was it enough? No. Leo would ask about my flying days, and I'd tell stories. Every time I felt like a coward, like I was teaching him to run from fear instead of facing it. What changed? Why apply if the thought of flying sent you into panic? Therapy. A lot of therapy. And a 6-year-old who believed I could do anything. I thought maybe if I got hired, pressure would force me past the fear. That's risky. I know. But every rejection email felt like the universe confirming what I believed. That I was damaged goods. That the gap, the PTSD, it made me unemployable in the only field that mattered. Catherine felt the weight settle between them. I'm sorry my system was part of that message. I built it for efficiency, but never thought about the cost. You're changing it? Trying to. Catherine showed him new protocols. Human review for all flagged applications. Questions about gaps, challenges overcome, resilience. Training recruiters to look for stories, not just credentials. Ray's eyes widened, scanning the documents. This is comprehensive. It needs to be. We're in the safety business, which means we need people who understand pressure, who've been tested and came through. People like you. Catherine closed the folder. So let's talk about the actual job. They talked for 2 hours. Ray described military experience, different aircraft, training programs. His passion was evident, but so was caution. He didn't oversell, didn't hide concerns about handling pressure. He was honest about PTSD, ongoing therapy, needing support transitioning back. Catherine found herself increasingly impressed. This wasn't someone looking for handouts or trading on heroics. This was a professional assessing whether the opportunity was right. Here's what I'm thinking, Catherine said. We bring you in as training specialist first. You'd work with our pilots on emergency procedures, crisis management. It gives you time to get reacquainted with our fleet, rebuild confidence, see if commercial aviation is what you want. After 6 months, we reassess. If you want active pilot status, we make it happen. If you prefer training or operations management, those paths are open too. Ray processed quietly. You'd really give me that flexibility? I would, because I don't just want to hire a pilot. I want someone who understands safety isn't about never being scared. It's about knowing what to do when fear shows up. You proved that in Kansas City. You can teach that. What about liability? Your lawyers must have concerns about my medical history. They did. I told them if they could show me a pilot with more real-world emergency experience than you, I'd reconsider. They couldn't. Ray laughed, surprised. Fair point. So what do you think? Ray didn't answer immediately. Catherine saw him weighing risks against opportunity, fear against hope. Finally, he looked up, eyes bright. Yeah, I'm interested. More than interested. This is everything I've been trying to get back to. Then let's make it happen. Catherine stood, extending her hand. Welcome to Skybridge Aviation, Ray Mitchell. His handshake was firm. Smile transforming his face. Thank you, Catherine. You have no idea what this means. I think I do. Catherine walked him to the door, then turned. One more thing. I want to start a program for veterans transitioning to civilian aviation. Support, mentorship, resources for PTSD. Would you help design it? Ray's expression went soft with surprise. You're serious? Completely. You're not the only talented person lost in algorithm gaps. I want to find them, give them chances they deserve. Then yes, absolutely, yes. 6 months passed. Catherine implemented the changes she'd promised. Applications from diverse candidates flooded in. Company culture shifted, became more human, focused on potential rather than Polish. Ray thrived in training. Catherine would observe his sessions, watching as he taught pilots not just technical skills, but mental resilience. He was patient, thorough, brutally honest about his struggles. The pilots loved him. And slowly, carefully, Ray began to fly again. Short flights first, then longer routes. There were setbacks, moments when the past rushed back and he had to take himself off schedule. But he managed, and more importantly, he was honest about it, never hiding struggles, always asking for help. Catherine found herself looking forward to their weekly check-ins. Professional formality had evolved into conversations ranging from company strategy to parenting to the nature of courage. I never thanked you properly, Ray said during one meeting, 10 months after Kansas City. For seeing past the resume. You've thanked me 100 times, and you've more than earned it. Your training program reduced our incident rate by 30%. Your veteran initiative brought in some of our best talent. We transformed it. You had courage to change a system that was working fine profit-wise. It wasn't working if it filtered out people like you. Speaking of that, Ray said, tone shifting, I've been thinking about going back to full-time pilot status. Captain Track, if that's still an option. Catherine felt pride surge. Absolutely. You're ready? As ready as I'll ever be. The fear's still there sometimes, but I've learned to work with it. And Leo told me he wants to be a pilot when he grows up, like his dad. I want him to see that fear doesn't disqualify you. It just makes you more careful, more human. Then let's make it happen. 6 more months, supervised flights. Then evaluation for full captain status. 1 year after the emergency landing, Skybridge held its annual company meeting. Catherine stood at the podium, looking over employees. Ray sat front row, Leo beside him in miniature pilot uniform. Catherine told the Kansas City story. Not to glorify Ray, but to illustrate a point about systems and humanity. The danger of letting algorithms make human decisions. She talked about changes implemented, results seen, talent discovered. We've always been in the business of bringing people together, Catherine concluded. But we forgot our employees are people too, with stories that don't fit application forms. This year, we remembered. We're better for it. The applause was thunderous. I want to introduce someone who embodies everything we've learned. Captain Ray Mitchell joined us 12 months ago, and he's revolutionized our training program, launched our veteran support initiative, and reminded us what courage looks like. Today, I'm pleased to announce Ray has been promoted to Senior Captain and Director of Safety Operations. Ray stood, clearly surprised. Leo jumped up, clapping. As Ray approached the stage, Catherine saw tears, the good kind, from having your worth recognized. They shook hands at the podium. You didn't tell me about the director position, Ray whispered. I wanted it to be a surprise. You've earned it 10 times over. Ray turned to address the crowd, talking about fear and resilience, supporting each other, building culture where people could be honest about struggles. He thanked pilots who helped him retrain, colleagues who covered shifts, the company for a second chance. And he thanked Leo, beaming in the front row, for never doubting his dad could fly again. After the meeting, employees crowded Ray with congratulations. Catherine watched from distance, content to let him have the spotlight. This was his moment. Later, Ray appeared at her elbow, making a habit of looking past the paper. Someone taught me it was important. Smart person. The smartest. Catherine looked around the room. We're going to make mistakes. Some people we take chances on won't work out. Probably. But some will. And those success stories will change everything. Like yours did. Like ours did, Ray corrected. You took the risk. I just tried not to crash the plane. Catherine laughed genuinely. Is that your version of humility? It's my version of gratitude. Ray grew serious. A year ago, I was fixing landing gear wondering if I'd ever feel whole. Now I'm standing here as senior captain, with purpose and future, and a son who believes anything is possible. That's because of you. Because you saw past the algorithm to the person. Good. Because I need you to help me keep seeing clearly. It's easy to slip into old patterns. I need people who'll remind me we're not in the efficiency business. We're in the human business. Deal. Ray extended his hand. The gesture felt like more than professional agreement. It felt like a promise. Leo appeared, tugging his father's sleeve. Daddy, can we go see the planes now? I did promise. Ray looked at Catherine. Want to join us? I've got clearance to take him to the hangars. Catherine checked her phone. 3 meetings, conference call with investors, dozen urgent emails. A year ago, she would have declined without hesitation. But she'd learned something in 12 months. The most important moments weren't always the scheduled ones. I'd love to, she said, and meant it. They walked to the tarmac together, unlikely friends bound by crisis that became catalyst for change. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and gold, planes gleaming like promises. Leo chattered about wanting to learn, about becoming a pilot like his dad, about places he wanted to fly. Ray listened with patient attention of a father who understood these dreams mattered, that believing in impossible things was how you made them real. Catherine walked beside them, feeling responsibility settle comfortably on her shoulders. She had built a company, yes, but more than that, a place where people like Ray could rebuild their lives, where second chances weren't just possible but celebrated, where human potential mattered more than algorithmic perfection. It wasn't the empire she'd imagined when starting Skybridge. It was better. "You know what I think about sometimes?" Ray said as they reached the nearest plane. "That moment on the flight, when I had to choose between staying in my seat and walking to the cockpit. I was so sure I'd fail." "But you didn't." "No, but it could have. And if you hadn't been there, if you hadn't stayed with Leo, if you hadn't looked at me like you believed I could do it, I might not have stood up." Ray faced her fully. "We talk about this like you gave me a job, but what you really gave me was courage to believe I deserved one. That's the real gift." Catherine's throat tightened. "You had the courage already, Ray. I just helped you remember where you'd left it. Maybe. Or maybe we helped each other remember what actually matters." As the sun dipped below the horizon and airport lights flickered on, Catherine Reynolds stood on her company's tarmac and understood, finally, what she'd been building all along. Not an empire, not a business, a community, a place where broken people could become whole again, where courage was measured not by fearlessness, but by willingness to try anyway, where every person's story mattered because you never knew which one would change everything. Ray Mitchell had saved 237 lives on a flight to Kansas City. But in the year that followed, he'd done something even more remarkable. He'd helped save a company from forgetting its soul, and Catherine had returned the favor by giving him back his sky. "Come on," Ray said, gesturing toward the plane. "Let me show you two what a proper pre-flight check looks like. Leo, pay attention. This is important stuff." Leo's voice rang out, clear and bright. "I'm ready, Daddy. Teach me everything." Catherine followed them toward the plane, toward the future they were building together, and for the first time in years, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The sky was waiting, and this time, they were all ready to fly.